Hello everyone, I'm Craig Gilchrist and today I'm kicking off my indie hacking adventures by telling you about some apps and services that I plan on building for miniature painters and wargamers. So check this out. So a really rapid primer about me. I've been developing software for over 20 years. I built a digital agency with my best friend called Eden Agency. I've just departed that agency to go off on my own. And throughout lockdown, I really got into Warhammer, tabletop gaming, miniature painting. And I'm quite fortunate in that now I have lots of free time and I've decided to use it to build tools to build apps and things that I would love using. There's a couple of apps I'm going to build. First one being a painting app, and the second one being a Blood Bowl team manager. The reason I'm doing this is I built lots of things in iOS many moons ago, but over the last few years I've been concentrating on microservices, AI, and lots of sort of big business systems. So I'm brushing up on some old iOS skills. I want to learn some new skills along the way, so I want to build some microservices and things in Dapper and some really small container-based microservices. And I want to bring developers along with me, and if I find anything cool, I want to put some tutorials and things out there. But the primary goal is to build things that people love, and I want to sort of document my journey and really build in public. So for me, the hobby of miniature painting is a really positive experience. It's got a great community, there's loads of content, and it's just a chance to be creative and chill out, really. And what you find is that you always strive to be a better painter, and people follow a similar journey. They start out by following official tutorials. You might, if you're in the Games Workshop space and you play Warhammer or Blood Bowl or Age of Sigmar, you start by looking at armies, you start by buying models and you follow official tutorials. But then as you sort of hone your craft a little bit, you then start doing things like airbrushing or experimenting with different paints. You see some videos on YouTube where they might start mentioning some army painter paints or Vallejo paints or something like that. So you start to build up your inventory and buying different paints and really and different techniques and learning different ways of doing things. But what I've found over the last year and a half of doing the hobby is that there are a few gaps where something in the digital space would be really good. Those gaps are inventory management, showcasing your models, and managing and remembering recipes. So let's start with inventory management. I've found that I've started with Citadel range. I actually have a preference. Once I started airbrushing, I built a preference for Vallejo paints. But often I'm still looking at official tutorials or tutorials on YouTube where people are using sets of paints, and I might not have those paints, and I want to either find a close match or I want to find a match in a different manufacturer's range because it goes better through the airbrush, or it's better for wet blending, or there might be various different reasons. So the first part, inventory management and color matching, would be a great set of tools, and there are a few tools out there. But what I'd really like to do is have that all-encompassing library where anyone can just go and say, this is my paint, this is the paint that I want, or this is the paint that's been recommended. What are my options in all of the ranges? And they can either find a match in their own inventory, or they can add something to a wish list or a shopping list. The second part of that inventory management is that I've sometimes bought the same paint twice, forgetting that I already have it. I might have used it for one tiny little piece on a model, forgotten I've had it completely, and then bought it again because I needed it in a much wider context for a bigger army. And I've done that on more than one occasion. So the second part is showcasing models. Instagram's great, Twitter's great, but it'd be really nice if people had a space where they could just a one-stop shop for finding examples and inspiration from other mini painters. There's people like to show off their models. They've spent hundreds of hours sometimes on some models and they want to show them off. And it would be great if you could show off your models at the same time as making it a utility. So you could show off your model and you could tap on parts of the model and say, this is the recipe. So these are the paints and the steps that I'd used to make this particular blue armor, or this particular skin tone, or this particular hair tone. And people then could search that and say, wow, that's what I want my dwarfs to look like, or that's what I want my Necrons to look like. What paints did they use and what steps did they take? So the showcasing and the recipe part kind of play really well together. And the third part really for me is just remembering my own recipes. Sometimes I'll get through halfway through an army that I think look great. I put that army down, I go paint some other bits and pieces, and then I come back to paint the next part of the army. And obviously you want it all uniform, and I've forgotten what the recipe was for that armor. I've forgotten. And then I sort of really rack my brain to think, oh, did I use this particular, did I use Dark Reaper, or did I use Incubi Darkness? I have a terrible memory. I want to remember what the recipe was to make it consistent throughout. So as well as looking at other people's for inspiration, I want to look back at my own models for inspiration and say, oh yeah, that's what I used. So that's the final part to the app that I want to build. So if you've got any extra features that you think would be great in that sort of context, I'm calling the app Paint Pal. Just sort of like a companion app for miniature painters. I plan on building it with microservices and an API, some sort of authentication and login. I plan on building it natively in iOS and building it as possibly a Flutter app for Android, Windows, and the web. It may be a React web app, but that's what my plan is at the moment. My focus will be on iOS first, because those are the skills that I want to brush up on. So if you've got anything that you think needs adding, or you want to get involved, you want to be a beta tester, then give me a shout, because that would be great, and that's really what I want to do with this. So yeah, if you like and subscribe, follow my journey, and we'll see where we get to. Cheers, guys.